Okay, this week's Torah portion is Parshas Mishpatim. It is the 6th portion in the book of Exodus, the 18th portion in the Torah. There are 118 verses, 1,462 words, and 5,313 letters. There are 23 performative mitzvahs and 30 prohibitive mitzvahs. Only 3 parshas have more mitzvahs than this week. Emor, which has 63, Re'eh, which has 55, and Ki Teitzei, which has 74 mitzvahs in it. But this week has 54 mitzvahs in this week's parsha. Okay. So we know the end of last week's parsha, the Jewish people received the 10 commandments. And the Jewish people are now getting all of the details. Now, this is transpiring all at Sinai. Moses is teaching the Jewish people what they need to know of how to live a Jewish life. Okay? The Jewish people receive a series of laws concerning social justice, proper treatment of Jewish servants, a husband's obligation to his wife, penalties for hitting people or for cursing parents, judges, or leaders, financial responsibilities for damaging people or their property, either by oneself or by one's animate or inanimate property, or by pitfalls that one created. So if you walk here on the street and you take out your plow or your shovel and you start digging a hole, digging, and someone is walking out of the torch center, God forbid, right, and falls 20 feet into a hole because you dug that hole, right? You're responsible to pay for those damages. What happens if you have an animal, a dog, and your dog goes and bites your neighbor's child or eats your neighbor's fruit? Or the dog is roaming around outside without supervision, and the neighbors, meanwhile, bringing in their groceries, and they leave their trunk or their side door of their minivan open, and the dog goes in and sees dog food and starts eating it. It's not me, it's my dog. Next time, close your door, and you won't have a dog, right? No. You're responsible for your own, all of your possessions you're responsible for. Okay? So if you have a basketball court, one of those portable basketball courts, and the wind blows and falls into your neighbor's property and breaks their window, right? Are you responsible? So that's a whole different question, because it wouldn't have fallen. It wasn't irresponsibility. It wouldn't have fallen if there wasn't a wind. So that the whole Talmud discusses if it was an ordinary wind or extraordinary wind. These are things that need to be analyzed. Payments for theft.
So acts of God, things that are declared acts of God, are those the responsibility of the person?
No. So if it was an ordinary wind, then you'd be responsible.
But it was
if it was a hurricane, then most likely you would not be responsible.
I had a tree fall into my neighbor's house.
Into their house.
Yeah. If there were.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure the insurance loved you.
Well, your homeowner. Yeah. It was.
Rabbi, I think on your example of this basketball net or whatever fell into the other person's yard, you have the responsibility of tying it down. And if you don't tie it down and it falls over, then it's your fault.
Right. So that would be on an ordinary Tuesday. But how about when there's this hurricane and tying it down is not going to help?
No, I agree. But when you first said it.
Right. So payment for theft. Right? Someone steals. How do you repay that theft? Right? It's something that in San Francisco they don't know anything about, because if you steal less than $950, you walk out scot-free. Right? They probably give you a trophy. They're like, good for you. What? Only California. In San Francisco, yeah. Yeah, it's really tragic. It's the It's the disintegration of human morals.
Yeah.
And okay.
You can go to 3 different places and stay on
Yeah.
50 and you can make a living.
Well, so if the item is no, it's because let me explain to you why. Is because the courts are so overloaded that for petty theft, they're not gonna, you know.
And
So
$950 is considered
petty, right?
Which is not petty for the people that lose $950.
Yeah.
No.
That's correct. So
And it could
okay,
be a
but
daily thing, yeah.
so just an interesting thing. Let me tell you how it works in the Torah. If I steal this chapstick, I steal it, put it in my pocket, and 2 witnesses saw it, and I say no, it didn't steal it. Okay, they bring me to a Jewish court, and the court says, swear that you didn't, right? And then 2 witnesses come and say, well, we saw you steal the chapstick, okay? And I'm denying it. I didn't. So they force him to pay 2 chapsticks.
Mhm.
But what's if I stole an animal? I steal someone's ox.
Mhm. You have to pay him back with 2 oxes.
No.
That's double, isn't it?
And then not only that, I want to hide the evidence. I'm not going to keep the ox. I take it to the slaughterhouse. They slaughter the animal. I fill up my freezers, and now like, I didn't even know what you're talking about, right? So because you did that, you have to pay, depending on what type of animal, 4 or 5 instead of 2. But it's a very interesting thing. If the guy just says, I did it, he just has to pay 1.
Mhm.
Really?
Yes.
No.
1. You have to pay 1. No, you have to pay 1 back. So if I admit in front of the court, you know what, I really did steal it at the end, right? I only pay back 1. If you deny it and you're proven wrong, it's 2. And if it's an animal, it's 4 or 5, depending on the type of animal. Okay? Just so we understand how that works. Why? Why did the Torah do this? So the Torah teaches us it's exactly. It's an added punishment. It's an added punishment that the Torah added, meaning all you took from me was 1 chopstick, right? So you don't need to give me 2. But in order to make it so that they never want to do it again, we give them this extra penalty. There's a okay. Not returning an object that one accepted responsibility to guard. So there are 4 different types of watchers. Okay, there's a free, there's a shomer chinam, which is, I say, Susan, I'm going out of town. Do you mind just holding my painting in your house so that it doesn't get ruined, right? It's a beautiful painting of this Yemenite rabbi. Can you just, right? Can you just watch it for me, right? So that's called a free watchman. Okay. There's another type, which is, can you watch the painting? I will pay you $50 while I'm on vacation so that you watch over it. There is a, shoel. The other type of watchman is someone who borrows something. They're considered a watchman. I borrow your painting, right? I'm responsible. I'm a watchman over your property. And then there is a renter. Someone who rents is also a watchman.
Could be for collateral.
No,
I think that's the Rabbi. When you give somebody something that you for collateral.
I don't remember what the 5th one is, but maybe it is that. Okay, but each one of these guardsmen, are responsible for the objects that on different levels. Okay,
I think it is that, because they have to, at night, they have to give it back. Let's say you gave somebody a pillow.
Right, so that's correct. That's a different. That's not a watchman, that's per se, but that is like if I loan you money. If I loan you money, so I say, okay, I want a collateral. So you give me your pillow. Okay, I have to give you back that pillow at night, and you have to bring it back in the morning. But I have to give it to you at night, so that you can function as a human being. The right of self-defense of a person being robbed. So very interesting for the state of Texas, where we're allowed to be what they call gun toting, right? If someone breaks into your house, you're allowed to kill them. Why?
Because they shouldn't be breaking into your house.
No, there's something more than that. What's their intent? Don't they know that there's someone in the house?
They're threatening your life.
They're threatening your life. And if someone threatens your life, you're allowed to take their life. It's actually, there's a whole tractate talking, not a whole section of tractate. It talks about if someone is digging a burrow, they're digging a trench under your house to break into your house. Right? You're allowed to kill them. You're allowed to kill them because they're coming with the intention. There are two types of thieves. Speaking of thieves, in this week's Torah portion, we learn about two different types of thieves. There's a thief that steals during the day, and there's a thief that steals at night.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Under the cloak of darkness.
Right. One is afraid of people. He's not afraid of God, but he's afraid of people. The other is not afraid of either. Yeah, in broad daylight, he's not afraid of anything. He's not afraid of anybody. He's not afraid of people. He's not afraid of God, right? The one who's afraid of, who does it at night, is considered to be worse. You're afraid of people, you're not afraid of God? This guy, okay, he's totally off his rockers. He's not afraid of God. He's not afraid of anyone. But this one, you are afraid of humans. You're not afraid of God. So what's wrong with you, right? All right, so that's self-defense. Prohibitions against seduction, witchcraft, bestiality, and sacrifices to idols is discussed. And over here you have all the verses, so you can look it up in your beautiful chumash at home. Treatment of converts, widows, orphans with dignity. God says that He has a special compassion, special mercy for those who can't protect themselves. Right? A widow doesn't have a husband to stand up for her. An orphan doesn't have a father or a mother to. And I remember this as clear as day. When I was in third grade, a student in my class, his mother, one of my best friends, his mother passed away. She had a terrible illness, and she passed away. I remember that the funeral was from the school. And I remember right when we came back from the funeral, the rabbi got up, and the rabbi read the verse in the Torah that teaches us that you have to be very careful with an orphan and a widow and a convert. Because they don't, and he warned us all of the terrible punishment that would befall someone who makes an orphan cry. Just like you're being cruel to an orphan, God says, I'm going to be cruel to you. And the rabbi warned us about when this student is going to come back to school. Doesn't have a mother now. He was sitting shiva for a while, right? But he doesn't have a mother now. Be very, very careful and make sure you don't make this kid cry. Don't beat him up. Be nice to him. And it was a very important lesson for us to learn. This is third grade. Avoid lying. It doesn't say, it's interesting. It doesn't say don't lie. It says distance yourself from lying. Tirchak, distance. Usury, all right, loans with interest is forbidden. And the rights over collateral are limited. Right? The collateral that you give for the loan is limited. In what way? If they need it back, they get it back. Like you said, Rabbi David.
Yes.
Right? Payment of obligations to the temple should not be delayed. So if someone makes an oath, someone says, I'm going to give 30 sheep to the temple, you got to give it right away. You can't delay, because what happens if someone doesn't fulfill their pledge? They eventually, it's like, well, I was, right? Okay. The Jewish people must be holy, even concerning food. Right? That's why we have laws of kosher, which, by the way, are not taught to us till Leviticus. The laws of kosher are not taught yet. And it says, which is why on Shavuot, many have the custom to eat dairy. They don't eat meat because they didn't yet know how to slaughter an animal. That wasn't taught till a little bit later. So Shavuot, we commemorate that by eating that dairy meal, which the Jewish people ate till they learned the laws of proper slaughter, or the laws of kosher. But the idea that we must be holy, and everyone heard of the term goy. What is a goy? A non-Jew. It's not true. It's not a correct translation. Goy means a nation. That's the literal translation of the word goy, means nation. Now, it's also used as kegoye ha'arotzos. Goyim, right, but goyim means the nations. It's plural. It's nations. But in this week's Parsha, we see how the Jewish people are referred to as a goy. A goy kadosh, a holy nation. Okay, goy kadosh, a holy nation. So it just if you hear someone say he's a goy. Now it's different if someone says shiksa. Okay, that's a female goy, right? But that's not.
That's a female nation?
A female nation. Right? Well, according to one of the midrash says that women are a different nation, right? So it's not a different nation. It's just a different. Does anybody need proof that men and women are different? Right? Nobody needs proof, right? So it's a different. It is a different nation. It's a holy nation, right? I'm not allowed to. Is it offensive?
Well, they have to be the same.
Equality. Yeah. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Okay.
What did David say?
He said he says I can't say that because equality.
Oh,
He was saying it tongue in cheek, but yeah. The Torah teaches the proper conduct for judges in court proceedings, not to show favor to one over the other, to one, right? If this one's your friend, you'll be nice to him. This one's not your friend, right? No. You have to be completely impartial. 4 types of death penalties in Jewish law. Anybody knows them without looking? Anybody knows the 4 different types of death penalties in Jewish law?
stoning, hanging, throwing them off the roof?
No throwing off the roof.
No?
Well, it's part of stoning.
Right.
It's part of stoning.
Stoning is
Strangling. Very good. Okay, so let me tell you what each one is. By the way, the court never administered any of these punishments.
They're like doctors. They get them to the nurses.
Never. Oh, no, not even the nurses. Only the witnesses. The witnesses.
Have to kill them?
Yes.
Oh.
You gave testimony, you better be sure of your testimony.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be throwing them off that building, okay?
Yeah, you got to start.
That's a good deal, right? All right.
You see him do it, go choke him to death.
Exactly. No, but you had to do it after the court decided that he was actually guilty of that. Okay, and they interrogated in a way that was not so simple for you to just say, "Oh well, we were just walking and we saw him do that." You're like, no. Did you warn him? Was he in a sane state, et cetera, et cetera? They asked many questions to verify the veracity and the authenticity of the testimony.
Excuse me for a minute. So do you get death penalty if you steal?
No.
Okay, so
No death penalty if you steal.
what are the death penalties?
Oh, so one who kills is put to death. But you have to be told before he murders that person. It means O.J. Simpson in a Jewish court would have walked scot-free without even a hearing. Let's say, Mr. Sir, we accuse this individual, OJ, for murder of, and they say, okay, where's your witnesses? We have no witnesses, circumstantial, or whatever, you know, you don't have 2 witnesses? Sorry. See you later. Have a good day. Next, please. Right? That's it. It wouldn't even be a case. You have to have witnesses. Now, the question is whether or not a court would give evidence, would count evidence today, like with cameras. Most likely not. Most likely not, because you can doctor anything. You know how amazing it is? On this device that I'm speaking to right now, very high quality camera, really, really beautiful machine. But they have something which is called Studio something. My daughter was playing with it. She found it in a second. I couldn't find it if you paid me. But she found this feature, and this feature allows you to make yourself look like someone else. So you can look like you're Elvis Presley, and you're talking as if you're, hey, how are you? And I was like, and you can do, you know, and you can do like you. What's that?
Deep fakes.
Deep fakes, right? Exactly, and you can do the right, and it's like right in front of your face. You can see how it really it's frightening. If you can do that, you can do anything. I can put your face on the person who shoplifted from the store. I can put right. I can change. So
that's still not fair, because if somebody did a crime and did it intentionally without any witnesses around, they're off scot-free.
That's correct.
You know?
Oh, but
Afterlife.
very good. No, not only afterlife.
I mean,
God
that's what they
says,
thought.
no. But here's what you need to understand. This human court on planet Earth is only able to punish things that God has given us the tools to judge. We can't judge things that don't have witnesses. That only God. God is the witness for everything, right? He sees everything. He knows everything. Only God can get judgment on that.
Yeah.
It's not that he's getting scot-free. He'll be hit by a car and he'll die from that. He was like, God sends different ways for a person to, okay?
Touch, stoning, burning.
Okay, so what is stoning? Stoning is not really stoning, even though that's what it's called. It's not really stoning. Stoning is that they would put the person on a platform. The platform would be 2.5 times his height.
Okay.
Or actually it would be 1, 2, 3 times. So he'd be standing, okay, and he would be tied by his legs, his hands, and he'd be standing on the side, and they would both witnesses, with one of the witnesses having his hand on his waist, and the other witness would have his hand behind that witness, and they would push him off that ledge together. Naturally, because of his height, he would fall on his head. Most likely he would die. If he didn't, then the stoning began. And the stoning would be, they would pick up a massive, massive stone together, and then the one who pushed him off would leave go first, and the second one would leave go second, and they would drop the big stone on him. And if that still didn't kill him, the entire Jewish people would come around and stone the individual to death. And then he was hung. And then he was hung till the end of that day. Till sunset. As soon as sunset happened, they'd take him down. Exactly. And the reason they did it, so people should see, if this person murdered someone, you don't murder people. Because this is what happens. But that would only happen once he was dead. You never hang a living person. That wasn't okay. Once he was dead, you would hang him so that people would see as soon as nightfall came, because of human dignity, you'd bury him, and that was it. Okay.
Because it's more humane, just the problem on his head.
Or drop a stone on him.
All right,
Boulder on him. That's after they tried to kill you, Dave. I'll kill you once.
All right.
Twice.
Yeah, so the next is sreifa. Sreifa is with burning. They would this would only happen to one person. There's only one person who would get this punishment, and the person would be a woman who was married, who had an adulterous affair Um, and again, there had to be proper witnesses who warned her of this beforehand.
Well, why does the man who's having this affair not get burned as well?
Oh, he gets something else.
Oh,
Okay.
something really special.
He gets put to death with choking. Okay. And with
Well,
choke.
at least he gets some kind of
Yeah, it's yeah.
satisfaction.
And the choking is that they would have a long string that would go around his neck, and each one of the witnesses would hold the end of the string, and they would fall right to the sides, and that would choke the person to death. Okay. And then decapitation also, I forgot about that. Okay, but that's either way, you have to understand that the Torah commands us to do this only with certain circumstances. I would bet that probably these never happened, most of them, because to have a case that is such a slam dunk, to have the witnesses and everything be so perfectly lined up is virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible. So why is it there? Why is it there? To deter, exactly. It's there as a deterrent. So someone says, wow, now you'd say like, oh, the Torah is like ISIS, God forbid, right? No, right? It's there to deter. And the idea is if someone says, you know what, the burning lead down my throat, right? I don't want that. That's what when it says sreifa with burning, that's what they would do. They would pour burning lead down the throat. Now, yeah, not pleasant, but again, it's almost. I probably never happened any of these in the way that it's.
Because you have to have your two witnesses and the witnesses have to warn you.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be happening in a actual crime.
Right, and you know what? And I'll tell you some of the questions that they would ask. Okay, what happens? Okay, what happens? A doctor, you can help me with this, Dr. Howard. Okay,
Doctor. Yeah.
We all know that people have medical conditions, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to ask in the court. They're going to say, okay, maybe when that knife was stuck into his heart, maybe he had a heart attack and he died from the heart attack. Maybe there was another underlying illness that caused that death. Maybe, right? And there are many times, and they'll say, 1 second, you saw the man and woman going into the room together in the hotel. Did you see them actually doing the act together? Did you actually see with your own eyes? It's very hard for a witness to say, yeah, I was there and I saw, right?
You peeking, Tom.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
How do you hang the
When my
husband
iPhone-
decapitated?
No, you wouldn't hang. No, only the guy who was Sakilo, who was
Oh,
stoned.
that's the only guy that
Only
gets
the
hung.
only guy. That's the only one.
The decapitated guy doesn't get hung.
No, he doesn't get hung. The commandments of Shabbat and the sabbatical year are outlined. The 3 pilgrimages of Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot are, when we go to the temple, are outlined. And then the Torah concludes the listing of laws with the laws of kashrut, not mixing meat and milk, like Rebbitzin Wendy just said earlier, right? Not mixing milk and meat together. So this, by the way, it's very interesting. When you learn the halacha, we'll get to it someday in a halacha class here. But when we get to, we will, living Jewishly, we'll get to it.
We have second lives.
Yeah.
Not you, you'll still be here.
So the not mixing milk and meat is written 3 times in the Torah. Now we know we say at the beginning of every class how many letters, how many words, and how many verses. How many? Yeah, and how many verses? So why in the world would the Torah repeat the same commandment of not to mix milk and meat 3 times?
Get the point across. Because people are stupid.
To teach you 3 different laws of milk and meat. Number 1, not to eat it. Number 2, not to cook it. And number 3, not to benefit from it. Okay? When it says it 3 times, it's telling you 3 different things. It's telling you not to eat it, so we can't eat milk and meat. You cannot eat a cheeseburger ever. The only one you can eat is a veggie burger
With
G-
cheese.
with cheese. Put your
Or fake cheese and.
or fake cheese on your steak. Exactly. But you cannot do now. It's another question whether or not you can do it in public,
Yeah.
because someone sees you eating that, they're like, oh, huh. I thought you were at the torch class, right? You should know better, right? So that's why you don't do it in public, right? Even such a thing, unless it's a place that people know. Oh, like if you go, remember the Green Vegetarian, they would earth a fakin' cheeseburger,
Yeah.
right? Which was fake bacon and cheese, real cheese. Right? They didn't have any meat. It was a vegetarian place, right? I still couldn't get myself to eat it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get myself to do it. But even though it's 100% kosher, it's not meat. Okay. The second thing is, so we said first not eating it, and we said not cooking it. So you can't prepare for somebody a cheeseburger. You can't do it. You can't cook it. And the last thing is you cannot benefit. You can't sell it. That means you can't open up your new Dave's burger joint, right?
Believe me, it's not gonna
It's not happening. Yeah, I know. Okay, so next thing is that Hashem promises the land of Israel help with its conquering and mitzvahs. The Jewish people promised to do and listen to everything that God says. He said, we will do and we will listen, not listen and do, but we'll do and listen. Moshe writes part of the Torah and reads and teaches it to the people. And then Moshe ascends the mountain for 40 days and nights to receive the tablets that we're going to see in 2 weeks portion. We're going to see exactly what transpired when Moshe descends from that mountain. Okay, my dear friends, this was very entertaining, very lively. Thank you, everyone. I would look forward to seeing everyone back here at the Torch Center sometime. Come join us. Anna, you said you're in Conroe, right?
Yes, but I'm planning on coming on a Friday to
Oh,
Talmud class because
nice.
it's easier, right?
Excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this Friday is, I'm preparing for this Friday's Talmud class because it's also a very busy week. It happens to be, it's going to be a busy week because in New York, all the schools are out this week. They're all out. So all the parents are thinking of creative places to take their kids, right? So I probably got, I see there were like 6 phone calls while I was, so 2 months ago, I got a call from my friend, one of my best friends, and he tells me I'm coming with my family, winter break, we're coming to Houston. Reserved, no problem. Which week? Last week. He told me last week, about last week. So I said, sure, no problem. I said, but you know that's not the real, it's called Yeshiva week. It's not the real Yeshiva week. He says, yeah, I'm aware. My daughters are on vacation, the Yeshiva week. I'm going to do something different with them. But I'm going to bring my boys to Houston. They want to come to Houston. Okay. A day later, Zahava's cousin calls and says, hey, we want to know if we can come Yeshiva week. We can come, which is for this week, if we can come. So Zahava's like, sure, of course, no problem. A day later, my friend calls up. He says, you know what? We decided we're coming the next week. Next week is not possible anymore because my wife just told her cousin, no problem. So since then, I got probably about 100 phone. I'm not exaggerating. 100 phone calls for people from New York, New Jersey, wherever that they're looking for a place to go. They want to come to Houston. Houston's the new hot vacation place till they come here, right? Right. Who knows? Right. So, yeah. So it turns out that my friend is coming, but he rented an Airbnb not far, and the cousins are also coming. And then I have a bunch of my first cousin's children. Right. So first cousin once removed. They're coming, like 4 or 5 girls. I think they're like 15 years old, and they're coming to be in Houston and be with their cousins. So it's Huva will be busy. Huva will be. What's that?
All of them are staying at your house.
No. The Zava's family is.
Yeah, but everybody else.
Everybody else is not. Yeah. I mean, I only have that many
Farm
rooms.
amounts on
You
it.
got any room, Terry, for all those people?
I got room.
See, she volunteers.
Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great Shabbos, everybody. I
Thank
look,
you, Rabbi Wolbe.
I look forward.
Good night.
Friday at 12 o'clock. I look forward to seeing Anna here.
No,
Bring out the
next-
red carpets. Roll
not-
out the red carpets.
Stop. Next Friday, not this Friday.
I look forward to seeing you.
Good night.
All the best. Bye, Tabitha.